Live from San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on.
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We got Brian Alvarez here, and also later in the show, about 40 minutes or so, we're going to be joined by Sean Waltman, Six-Pac from NWA TNA, X-Pac from WWF, probably soon to be going to Japan as well. We got always a controversial figure in this business, and we'll be talking to him later on. Of course, Brian is there watching Pride. Where are we right now with the Pride show, Brian?
Actually in the middle of Alexander Otsuka versus Anderson Silva, and I am actually very impressed with Otsuka right now because he is going to town.
Mm-hmm.
So, looks good. And we've seen Randleman versus Michiyoshi Ohara, which whatever Boss Ruin said about Ohara last week, I would agree wholeheartedly because that fight was so horrible. And Guy Metzger versus Norihisa Yamamoto just ended, and Metzger got the decision there.
Okay. We got an interesting week this last week because WWE did another change in plans. The new WWE is going to be based on soap opera storylines. Well, it's always been soap opera storylines, but we've got Undertaker, who is an adulterer, perhaps, falsely accused most likely by... so she wasn't a porn actress. She was a Playboy model who's a bad actress. And Kane is a murderer.
Oh, yes.
Probably falsely accused. I think that's what it's going to be. All the babyfaces are going to be falsely accused because of that trial that actually just ended with Nicole Bass.
You know, I actually like... Well, I can't say I like the idea of all these heavy storylines, but I wouldn't mind so much if that was like the concept on Raw, where it was going to be more storyline-based and SmackDown wasn't going to be, because then at least you'd have more of a separation between the two shows, as opposed to having this be the theory for both shows, and then all of a sudden they're less separate than ever.
Yeah. On the Raw show, you know, and this has been kind of the common theme of people who saw that show, the tables, ladders, and chairs match was an incredible spectacle. It was a great match, dangerous match, and it's got a lot of people concerned because on one hand you're telling all the guys, you know, there's too many injuries and you've got to tone it down and you've got to work up, you know, and then they throw the guys with basically a little bit with no build-up and throw them into a tables, ladders, and chairs match basically just because they needed something to get a rating, and it did get a rating. And then afterwards, after this incredible match, where you could have just ended the show and everybody would have gone, man, that was an incredible show, what a great match. You end it with that Triple H going, Kane's a murderer. And just kind of like soured the whole...
show.
It's just like, yeah, it just ruined the whole show in some ways. Anyway, we got to head to a break. We got a full bank of calls. We're going to start getting to them pretty soon. You can call us as soon as someone hangs up at 1-800-878-PLAY. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
This is Big John McCarthy of the UFC, and you're listening to the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night on the Sports Byline Network, channel 123 on the Sirius Satellite Radio Network. And I always wonder what our target audience is, especially after listening to that last commercial.
I was just going to... Well, I wasn't. Dave beat me to it.
Okay. What's going on, Brian, on the show?
Right now, we're still in the middle of the Otsuka match, and he's not doing as well as he was when I first praised him, but it's competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not bad. Not competitive at this exact moment right now, but it has been.
Well, we're about 6 hours or so, maybe more, from the start of the Tokyo Dome show, which is going to be quite interesting tonight, with Joni Lauer and Masahiro Chono, among other things.
Get a singles match.
Oh, is it going to be brutal, or is it going to be brutal? There's going to be some really bad wrestling on that show tonight.
Oh, yes.
Let's see. Tough Enough starts on Thursday. Tough Enough 3 with the casting special with the 21 finalists that are going to be cut down to 13. And you didn't watch Confidential last night, did you, by any chance?
No, not yet.
Okay. They the tapes of they did another one of those Tough Enough tapes, you know, like the whatever those tapes that people send in.
Yeah.
Including the tapes that Maven and Nydia sent in when, you know, to get on. And boy, they must have been desperate. I mean, Maven was fine. It's just like, hi, I'm Maven Huffman. I'm 6'2", 215 pounds. That's about it. And Nydia was like out of her mind. I'm going like, they picked her? And now and now she's a star. Wouldn't you know it?
They turned her career around, I have to admit.
Yeah, they did. Brock Lesnar and Lennox Lewis I really doubt this thing will ever get off the ground. There's just too many things holding it up. In the 100-plus years of professional wrestling and professional boxing being major sports or entertainments or whatever they are in the United States, there have been numerous attempts to put a world champion boxer and a world champion wrestler in a ring together in some sort of a match, and it has actually never happened. The closest thing was Ali and Inoki, which was supposed to just be a professional wrestling match. It turned into a shoot, which is whatever. And then this one, which is supposed to be a shoot, although no one's going to believe it until after it happens, even if it really is. And then probably after it happens, half the people are going to think that basically if they were to have the match, okay, and Lesnar were to win, every boxing fan in the world is going to say it's a work because Vince McMahon promoted it.
Yeah.
And if Lewis won,
unless Brock breaks his arm.
Yeah, that's true. And if Lewis won, it'd probably end up being by knockout, so therefore I don't think anybody would question that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's quite interesting. A lot of the talk about it, and I think a lot of it is because, you and I were just talking about this earlier about Mirko Cro Cop, and because Mirko Cro Cop has done so well in mixed martial arts, people think that a pure boxer could go in there. And what they don't realize with Mirko Cro Cop is that he has years of ground experience.
Yeah.
He has ground defense. He has wrestling defense. And all of these things, that a well-rounded fighter is going to have. If he was just a pure kickboxer, Jerome LeBanner, is a knockout art kickboxing. He got beat by Tadao Yasuda, they're,
I'm trying to think of an equivalent that fans around here could understand as far as Tadao Yasuda.
Tadao Yasuda came to San Jose, and one of my friends who's a high school wrestler was throwing him around at will. Okay? That's Tadao Yasuda. Even though he's a big shooter over in Japan, and he actually beat Masaki Satake in this horrible match, and now he's a main eventer in New Japan, and that's why New Japan's going down the tubes faster than any promotion except for WCW in history.
Yeah.
Road Dogg, except way worse.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Let's get to the phone calls. We're going to start with Ed in San Antonio, Texas.
Road Dogg beating Tyson, maybe?
Hey, guys. I have to talk about a SmackDown today.
Okay.
When I read the spoilers, I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the previous 2 weeks, but I thought it was going to be really good. And then I taped the show, and before I watched the show, I read the SmackDown report on the website. And after I read that report, I was like, oh, my God, they killed SmackDown. But then I watched it,
and some
of the parts that I enjoyed the most were the skits in the back, like the Nydia Rey Mysterio was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and then the thing with Eddie and Chavo and Chris Benoit, it was kind of like shades of Love Machine there. Kind of like a...
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that was all right. I don't know. The Undertaker thing with... I thought the timing of that... I didn't mind it, but I thought that this wasn't the week for it.
Yeah, that was probably the weakest thing, but the Mattitude video, that was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Great.
Yes, it was. The Mattitude and the Randy Orton video on Monday. Poor Randy Orton, I got to tell you, man, that guy, this was not the time for him to separate his shoulder and need surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they should just, keep him on TV, having him go to, different events, and I think what would help get him heat is if they had, all these teenage girls following him around and just squealing like crazy. And, give a couple weeks of that, and when he does come back, everybody's going to hate him. And hopefully that'll, move him up the ladder a little bit.
Well, I guess he's going to be in WWF New York every Monday.
But
I did like how they showed him at WWF New York, and everybody was cheering for him and all happy. And it's like, I was waiting for the Die Randy Die chance.
It doesn't happen that quick. It takes a while.
Just like Matt, yeah, it took forever.
Yeah. Oh, Matt, they're still having trouble. They're doing those preconditioned promos at the house shows. The TVs, just to make sure he gets booed, because at the house shows he gets cheered half the time.
Yep.
I think it helps that he did get new music. They got the old Hardy music. I think that was part of the reason they kept cheering for him at first.
Yeah.
But I think the new music will help.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to have X-Pac on the show later.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen the video, but the Max Payne video, wasn't X-Pac, he wasn't the one doing the talking, but wasn't he there during that controversial scene?
I never saw it, so I couldn't tell you.
I don't think many people have seen that video, actually.
I never saw it, so I don't know.
Well, I saw it one time, and it wasn't a good picture, but I could have swore it was like Nash or Hall, and X-Pac was just there. and they were kind of like selling like pills or something. You know, I'm not sure.
On in wrestling. Hey, you know what? Max Payne, I guess, lives in Seattle now.
He does? I thought he was living in Salt Lake.
Well, that's what everyone else thought too. But I guess he called the group that I work for, and he wanted to come in, and he may be at this next show. So there is a strong possibility that I might get my hands on this video.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh yes.
I've been waiting for that one for years.
I just wanted you to like see if you could like discuss with Sean, because I know he's had drug problems in the past.
Oh, it'll come up.
If he could talk a little bit about that, you know, when he's on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm sure he wants to talk about that, actually.
Okay, well, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to Dan in Chicago. Dan, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Doing really good.
Listen, I read on OneWrestling.com that Eric Bischoff had a radio interview, and they mentioned about Hogan maybe being at Raw Monday. Any truth to that?
I sure haven't heard that. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, the timing's right.
Because they were talking about because he's reviewed in Canada, you know.
Oh, that's right. Montreal will get a big pop. Oh, yeah. I think it's real possible.
Because they were saying that Hogan, I guess, was really anxious to come back and everything, because they asked Bischoff if he talked to Hogan, and he said he's anxious to come back.
Well, who knows? No one knows about Hogan.
Right.
But I mean, this would be the time because I'm in the book out in a couple of weeks, and yeah, I could see that. They probably have a segment to fill, Brian. You know that?
Yep.
Listen, I want to talk about Raw if I could. I actually enjoyed Raw, like from top to bottom. I know you guys didn't like the ending, but I thought it leaves a twist, you know. And I like the fact that in the first 30 minutes that they wrestled instead of talking. What did you think of that?
I didn't think much of that wrestling was that good, though.
You know, I didn't hate the show, and I didn't like the fact that they threw all those stiffs out there, and it's like, okay, now what do you do next week? Because you've thrown absolutely everything you have in this one show. But I enjoyed the show in a strange way.
Yeah, is that going to be about?
But they can never do a show like that again.
No.
Or at least not for another year.
And they can't follow up with it tomorrow.
No.
What are they going to do with the wheel thing? Is that every week?
No, the wheel was a one-night thing.
Okay, and one last thing, if I may, what's going on with, I know Steve Austin had a court thing. Any plans on him coming back? Because I heard different things.
Steve, I mean, literally no one knows the answer to that one. When Steve Austin wants to come back, he'll be back.
All right.
And it's totally up to him.
Dave, I've always wanted to mention this. I enjoyed your little piece. I know it's been a while on that movie Beyond the Mat. I enjoyed that. So.
Oh, thanks.
All right, take it easy. Bye.
Okay.
How about as far as on Raw, like maybe one wheel match a week, but not have like a heavy stipulation match, just maybe something stupid like the blindfold or just something lame just to separate Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, okay, but I don't want to see another blindfold match.
Well, that's true. I enjoyed that one in a strange way, though.
Well, you know what I enjoyed about it? I will say, I mean, and not in a way. What I enjoyed was they went from pretending to be blind, okay, where they were doing that fake walking by each other, and then when it came time to like punching, all the punches like hit perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they never, like, no potatoes. You would think if you were blind, you'd potato somebody, right?
Exactly. Well, the thing was, it's like, you know, I didn't like the two participants in it because, okay, you're going to waste the world champion in a match with D'Lo Brown, that's one thing or whatever.
But they also made sure that everyone knew D'Lo Brown was a joke.
Yeah. But I just liked that the whole crowd was standing up and they were laughing along with it. It was something like from the 90s where the people were into it. It was almost good TV because of that.
Well, it was short. Just like the Regal thing. The Regal thing I didn't mind too much because it only went 51 seconds, but if it had gone 2 minutes, it would have been pretty bad, like a disaster. Anyway, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to come back with more phone calls right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're also going to be joined by Sean Waltman in about 20 minutes or so. And also want to remind everyone, if you're interested in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter that I put out every week, or Figure 4 Weekly that Brian writes every week, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. Also daily updates, features, all kinds of crazy stuff. TV reviews are up there. Brian, anything special for next week's Figure 4?
I actually wrote something this week about the PWI 500 came out. I did not actually write about that, or the Death Valley Driver 500, but it's about ranking workers and how I think you could actually sort of do that, but not as far as like 1 through 500, but a better system to rank them. So. Oh,
you're coming up with a system. I hope it's not too complicated.
Theory of wrestling, I call it.
Oh, I hope it's not too complicated. I have written a whole bunch of news, and I haven't written one feature story yet, which is scaring me.
What always happens to me is why you always ask me on Sunday, and I have no clue because I usually write those on Tuesday.
Oh, the feature. Yeah, I usually write them all through the week, and I write something about Lewis and Lesnar and all the details that's going on there, and but I don't know.
I tried that once, actually writing throughout the week the major stories, but then by Tuesday everything had completely changed. So I would throw everything out, and it drove me crazy.
I've done that many times where I've written long stories, and then by Tuesday I got to dump the whole story.
Yep.
But I don't mind. Let's go to Tom in Atlanta. Tom, what's going on?
Hey guys, before the break, Brian was mentioning about separating Raw from SmackDown, and then it reminded me, Dave, of your excellent analysis of the failure of this brand extension of WWE, and it's just really disappointing to me. I don't know. I mean, there's absolutely no separation. I mean, everybody knows it's all under the WWE banner. And I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, how can they pick up business?
How can they pick up business?
Yeah.
They better luck into somebody getting really hot in a hurry because they've played so many great cards and played them all wrong, and it's going to be tough. I mean, what they're hoping for is that the soap opera stuff is going to turn it around, and good luck.
Oh my God!
Year ago, if you look back to July and you think of that they were going to begin the brand extension in with WWF and WCW, you actually look back and then look at today. It's like they have done every single solitary thing wrong that could possibly be done. I can't think of anything they could have even done worse.
They could have.
So there's nowhere else to go but up then.
I would think so.
But I don't know what you do to turn it around. I mean, the one thing that I wrote in this week's Observer was, you look at where they are right now, realistically, where their numbers are right now, and it's October 1999. WCW just hired Vince Russo. That's where they are. So all you people who think that they were dead, that WCW was dead and Vince Russo could not have saved them, then WWF, by that very nature, is very close to dead. And I don't believe they're dead. But WCW wasn't dead then either.
Right.
But they could be dead if they don't turn it around.
Far more resources now than WCW did then.
Yeah.
They have money and they have the money and they have other things. But popularity-wise, they're at a pretty similar level.
Well, you also have to look at the major reason there's no WCW now is TV. If they hadn't canceled that TV, it could.
That's right. If they didn't cancel that TV, WCW would still be around, and WWF will be on TV on TNN for at least 3 more years, no doubt, and that will not change. SmackDown, who knows? SmackDown, I'm sure is good for at least another year, but TNN's good for at least 3 more years, and 3 years from now, who knows what the television landscape's going to be like? You can't even predict.
Yep. Quickly going to Tough Enough. They had the Tough Enough Marathon on MTV today.
Yeah, yesterday and today.
And they're using the F word and they aren't bleeping it out.
I heard someone emailed me that today.
Yeah. I couldn't, Triple H, you effing better, they aren't bleeping it. I could not believe my ears that they weren't bleeping this stuff.
Maybe somebody went to sleep.
You mentioned Confidential. I was hoping Brian had seen it because of the tapes people are still sending in of these fat, out of shape.
Oh, those were all old tapes. Those aren't new tapes.
Oh, they aren't?
No, those were not Tough Enough 3 tapes. Those were Tough Enough 1 and 2 tapes. And mainly Tough Enough 1 tapes.
I thought Brian would have a field day.
I'll have a field day because I have it on tape. I just got to watch it.
Yeah. No, you've seen most of them, actually.
Oh.
It was like some of the really crazy stuff.
I relive them. And I hope they show new ones on the show this Thursday. They have an hour.
Yep. Is it true or not that what I read on the Internet that Vince is going to have a meeting with all the wrestlers on Monday, but basically blaming the wrestlers for the poor ratings on Raw?
Well, I tell you, okay? Vince McMahon is not stupid. And if he were to go on and have a meeting with the guys and go, it's your fault that Raw's getting bad ratings because none of you guys are good wrestlers, that would be really stupid.
Right.
So I don't believe he's going to say that. There may very well be a meeting. In fact, I'm of the impression that there will be a meeting and things will be said, but that's not one of the things that will be said.
Yep.
They'll probably have Hunter go out there and tell everyone that you're all too damn short.
Do you think Hunter had anything to do with those un-Americans? Again, like Hunter wanting to be the only long blonde-haired dude. Did he have a hand in wanting those guys to have their hair cut?
I've heard people say that, and I'm not saying it's wrong. But Vince really does like groups to look alike, and he went in there and he said, it's like, I want all you guys to look alike, same kind of haircut. Lance cannot grow long hair in 1 week. You guys get your haircut.
Right.
Okay. Now, did Hunter have a hand in that? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Final thing, if you could ask Sean Waltman if he could describe what happened when, Bischoff fired him from WCW, and I talked to you guys before about this. Like, it was basically some kind of shenanigans that Paul and Nash were into, and like to make an example, they fired Waltman.
Yeah, that was like one of the stupider things in the history of wrestling. But yeah, we can talk about that.
Please talk about that. And
God, he's had quite a career. I mean, he's been wrestling since he was 15.
He's a really good worker, and I just think in WWE he was just around so long that fans got tired of him. I think a break from WWE might actually be good, and they can be.
It's good. No question, it's good.
All right.
People see him as an old guy, even though he really isn't, just because he's been around for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got good going, Tom. Okay.
All right, take care.
Ed, Fayetteville, Arkansas. What's going on?
Hey, I'd like to talk about the No Mercy crowd. It's the first ever pay-per-view in Arkansas, but yet you can still buy second row tickets.
I've heard the advance isn't good, but you know what? Do you know what the matches are for the show, except for the top two?
No, and I don't think Vince does either.
I don't even know. I mean, I know that they're going to do the tag team. I assume they're going to do Jericho and Booker, but I mean, we are 7 days away from that show, and literally they have not told anyone what the matches are. And if they haven't sold tickets, look at the two matches. Hunter and Kane have had terrible matches all over the country, and it's not a match that anybody really wants to see. And Undertaker and Brock are coming off of that match, which actually I thought was a decent match with a bad finish. But it's still Undertaker challenging for the title. It's not something that people really want to see. And what do you expect?
Well, as much as having bad booking and fan apathy, I think that's entirely the reason why they're not selling. Part of the reason the ringside aren't selling is because they're $200 and it's Arkansas.
Yeah, well,
it's not like Nassau Coliseum where they're having to draw less amount of people from a larger, land area who have less money. So if it did, last time they had SmackDown in the Altel Arena in Little Rock, it did pretty well. I mean, the crowd was pretty full, but then again, the tickets were significantly cheaper. So I think that may be a large part of the reason why it's going to bomb.
Yeah, it's going to bomb. There are going to be a lot of free tickets at the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So I can, move down from the bleachers. I have another question. What's any news on Ultimo Dragon coming in?
They, when they were in Los Angeles, they talked to him and they had a nice conversation with him. And when he's in shape, I'm sure that they're willing to talk contract and they're interested in him.
What is the whole thing on anyway? Did they fix it completely? Or?
Oh, he's not ready at all.
Well, I mean, I don't mean like in physical shape or anything like that, but I mean, if it's been 3 years or whatever, I'm not going to get significantly better by January, so.
He went in the ring. He did that match a couple of weeks ago, and it was a decent match. I mean, he can't do what he used to do, but he's not.
As far as usage of the hand, does he have most of it back, or?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That was my big question. I mean, I'm sure he can get back into ring shape, but I mean, what can he grab people, or?
I don't know. I mean, he's going to be limited. I don't know what he can't do.
One last thing, since most of the top wrestlers are all trying to develop a submission-based finishing move, and Triple H, tried to go with the sleeper, but I think he should switch to using the stump puller. That way he can be holding his opponent down.
How about the nerve pinch?
Oh, God. Let's go to Jim in Edison, New Jersey. Jim, what's going on?
How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
I got two questions. Do you think at the pay-per-view they're going to have in England, do you think they're going to have Lennox Lewis there in the crowd? Have a little stare down with Brock just to build up a little bit, maybe see what the people say.
No. I mean, if they have a deal, it's too early to start teasing it. And if they don't have a deal, why do that? So I would say, it's possible, but I would think that this timing wise doesn't sound like the right thing to do.
How about if they just have him there and mention these in the crowd?
Maybe.
Why not? Yeah, why not do that? And if he wants to go, why not? Yeah.
Do you guys? Did you hear anything about the main event for Survivor Series at all?
As far as
like the title matches at all, or is it going to be like unification or?
Nah, they're not going to do unification this soon. I don't think they know yet. In fact, I know it's not 100% decided. That's what you mean. I mean, there's ideas being thrown around though.
They pushed back the tickets on sale to October 27th.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, they're pretty confident. It's Madison Square Garden. It's Survivor Series. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to sell out. I don't think that they're really worried about that one. Like they're worried about Little Rock.
Nothing on Hulk Hogan coming back at all?
Well, we just heard maybe he is. I don't know. I mean, I expected him back in November to promote the book, so we'll see.
Well, I was figuring since the Garden was his home, they bring him back at the Garden maybe.
I'm not first match back, no. I think a couple weeks before that, for TV anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to show up at TV first. And Raw's the place for him to be. Keep him off of SmackDown. SmackDown's been a good show of late.
All right, you guys have a nice night.
Okay, we will be back right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Want to remind everyone we got a couple of lines open at 1-800-878-PLAY, so you can jump on them. Brian, what's going on the show?
Hiroshoji just tapped out to an armbar.
Uh-huh.
He looks extremely disappointed with himself.
Yeah, that was the one right out of the corner, right?
Yeah, yep. In the ropes, actually.
Yeah. What do you think of the Otsuka and the Paulo Filho matches?
I was kind of barely paying attention, but they look all right.
Okay.
Look all right.
Okay, let's head to Sean in Montreal. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Well, that's good. I'll be going to Raw tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's not kind of cool because the last couple of months Raw has sucked,
Yeah.
You've been watching. So,
yeah.
Do you know any
Why
of
are you going then?
Why am I going?
Yeah.
It's a habit.
Oh, okay.
Montreal, the last time they came here was SmackDown, right? With Hogan crying and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not very fun. But, do you know any of the matches for tomorrow, like the main event or what they're going to do?
No, I don't know anything that they're doing tomorrow night. Hopefully they're going to build up some matches for the pay-per-view.
About these soap opera storylines, do you think that's pretty stupid or what?
I think it all depends on the storyline.
There you go.
Well, come on, the murdering thing and
the murdering thing is a bad one. The Undertaker thing, I think, at the right time is not a bad one at all. But I wouldn't have done it that last week.
Thing is, they just can't do all these storylines where everyone is always falsely accused.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be guilty someday.
Yeah, well, the heels are going to be guilty someday.
That's how it works. Okay.
Yeah.
And SmackDown's been the better show for the most part.
Almost every week in the last summer.
Do you know if Vince McMahon will come back on TV by any time soon? Because Steph's just she sucks.
It's up to him. I mean, it'll probably come when we least expect it, and it's going to be they're going to do a 3.4 on a Raw one day, and he's going to be there a week later, just going God, I gave up this show, and this show's been terrible for the last 4 months, and I will not let my show be destroyed by these people.
I got to give them credit, though. They've done a good job as far as keeping Stephanie off the show as much as possible.
Yeah. I don't, you know what? I have not found...
more annoying.
I have not found her all that annoying in the last... even last week, let's just say. The week before last, I still found her annoying.
Screaming and screeching backstage about that one match or something?
Yeah, the last show, she's there. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things you got to put up with, kind of like, weeds in your lawn, but it's not like it's the end of the world.
Yeah. Shane's been off TV for so long, so I'm thinking it's time that they take her off.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing.
What do you mean? They're both bad actors. If you were on,
but Shane's not.
You put yourself on TV.
Shane's not the head of creative, and Stephanie is.
Yeah. See, and she was on Confidential as well. They're putting way too much.
Yeah, did you see that? They even put. Oh, you didn't see it, Brian. That's right. They have Stephanie McMahon, and they said head of creative right there. It's just
wow.
Yeah, it's written right there when she's talking about She's got this big smile on her face talking about when Kurt Angle sprayed her with the milk. By the way, that was fake milk. Did you know that?
Fake milk?
Yeah, they gave away the big secret. It was really water with some white stuff in it, so they used fake milk.
Dave.
Yes.
Me and my friend have this bet going on, and I said WrestleMania had 78,000, and he said it had 93,000.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, brother.
What's the real number?
93,000.
Okay, bye. Let's go to Tom in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Hey, guys, I have a comment about NWA TNA.
Okay.
But first, a correction as far as boxing versus wrestling. How can you forget Thunder Lips versus Rocky Balboa?
Because it was a movie.
I know. NWA TNA.
Yes.
Actually, I've noticed I'm one of the markets that just got it cleared. I have Mediacom cable, so I haven't seen it in about 3 months, the first month it was on.
Okay.
It's gotten a lot better, it seems to me. There's not as much content where I'm kind of embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. Like the Duffs aren't on there anymore.
Yeah, it's better. It's definitely better than it was about 5 weeks ago. As far as there's nothing absolutely horrible on the show, but there's nothing really great on the show either.
Now I'm scared to be a wrestling fan because I think someone's going to kill themselves, like that ladder match. That was scary to watch.
Yeah.
I do think it's a good idea to put the title on X-Pac, though, or Six-Pac, because you have to have a name who can put the other guys over.
Yep.
It's a simple concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they could have done it a little bit better than what they
did. Done it in a better way, I think.
Although I have to say, I had respect for him at that finish because I saw those guys killing themselves, and then he just came in and climbed the ladder, and I thought, that's the smartest man in wrestling.
No, that had nothing to do with him. That was the way it was all put together.
Well, whoever came up with that.
That was, the whole idea of we're gonna swerve you because everyone's gonna think that AJ Styles is gonna win, but and then when they think that he's got it won, somebody else is gonna win, and it's not gonna be one of the guys in the match.
Well, they swerved me.
Yes, they did.
That's about it. That's all I had.
All right, good enough, Tom. Let's go to James in Little Rock, Arkansas. What's going on?
Nothing at all. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
I have a buddy of mine. He works. He's the finance director at Alltel Arena, and I talked to him on Friday. He said that they've sold 3,800 tickets.
Okay, the real number out of what would that place hold for a sellout? 8,000?
No. For sellout, it would be about 12.5 after the setup.
Oh, really? Oh, then that's not good.
Right, because it's an 18,000-seat arena. But
oh my God, 18. Oh, so they'd probably. Wow.
818,000-seat arena.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of free tickets out this week.
And he said that their goal now is just to hopefully get the lower bowl full, which will hold about 8,000.
Yeah, and then carpet the rest of it off, which they've been doing in a lot of the arena shows.
But the promotion around here has just been terrible for it.
Has it?
It's been like that everywhere for all kinds of shows, though.
Right, well, and or even the house show that we had here, I think back in July, it only drew 1,500, and we had Hogan on the show.
I remember. You know what's funny? That just reminded me that the day after that show that you were talking about, because I knew that Little Rock was supposed to be the pay-per-view in October.
Right.
And the day after they drew 1,500, I mean, it was in my head, and it was just like, well, they got to get a new site for the pay-per-view in October because they just drew 1,500 for a house show.
Right.
And I actually talked with some people there, and I go like, well, I guess you're going to get a new a new site for the pay-per-view, and they said no. It's like, oh, okay.
Well,
I mean, to me, it seemed like that was like it was no brainer, right?
I think they just probably think that.
That's what you would think, but in the promotions coming up to the house show, they would say, "Come see your stars of WWE," and it was just Kurt Angle on there. They didn't advertise the card. They didn't say Hogan was going to be there.
Oh, that's just wonderful. You know what? Then we can't even blame Hogan for that house, can we? If they never advertised him, that is brilliant. That is brilliant, I must say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't surprise me because I mean I've heard it in every Last night in Edmonton, they had Brock Lesnar against Chris Benoit, and I mean, literally, and except for the people who read the Wrestling Observer that live in Edmonton, or read the Ross Report. I mean, literally, nobody knew in that building. Because I talked to a guy who was at the building, said nobody in the building knew that match was taking place until they did some angle in the building, and Benoit challenged him to a match, or he challenged Benoit, however it went.
I read that same thing, and it reminded me of here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know when they came here, I mean, they didn't advertise on their own TV until 2 weeks before the show.
I know.
I mean, I don't know. Why aren't you advertising on your own TV? I don't get it.
Well, there was a huge buzz for them the other 3 times that they came here prior to July and then to now. And now, it's just nothing. And I cannot believe how it's fallen off. I've been watching them 25 years. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a bunch, James.
Unfortunately. Yeah, y'all take care.
Okay. We have Sean Waltman on the line?
Hey there.
Hey, Sean. How are you?
Well, I was just listening to that last guy finish up. It just makes me think that the promotion aspect of the company's kind of stuck in the era of the late 90s, when you didn't have to do anything for there to be a sellout.
I mean, it was one of those things growing up and everything, when they had a big house show come into your area, I mean, sometimes promoters didn't even do much other than the TV, but 90% of the tickets are being sold off of your TV show. I don't understand why they're not even advertising when they come, whether it's be a house show or certainly a pay-per-view, on their own TV.
Remember the old event centers that they had?
It's not that hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, they did it. That's right. It's not that hard to do because they're doing 400 shows or 350 shows a year. They used to do 1,000 shows a year in the 80s, and they had event center in every market. Now, granted, it was a different type of a thing because, most of your viewership was syndication, then now most of it's national cable.
But the thing is it doesn't take any amount of time during a Raw broadcast for them to say, we're going to be in this town, this town, this town this week. There's only 3 towns you're going to run on that weekend anyhow. So, I mean, is it that hard to really, mention those 3 towns? Not to me. I think it makes it seem like, these guys are out on the road and okay, it's not just Monday Night Raw that they're wrestling. You can see them,
Well, they mentioned the dates and everything, like they do the little commercials, but they don't really, they never tell you who's going to be there or what the matches are or anything like that.
I think it's the whole thing, like when Nitro was on, they were afraid that people were going to turn a channel, but there's not that danger now, so why not do it?
Yeah.
They've stripped down the house shows so bare now with the cutting back on the pyro and all the different things now that, I think people feel like they're not getting their money's worth on the house shows, even though the guys are busting their ass.
What's, your thoughts, and this is, you came up during an era, and of course you've been a fan since childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interviews have always been really important in wrestling, and, they may be more important now than at any time in history. If you did localized interviews, if nothing else, a lot of the guys who don't get interview time on Raw and SmackDown would get tons, because one of the reasons why I think that, as a general rule, when we were growing up, I think the guys were better interviews because they were doing 20 a week.
They were smoother, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had the same material they could go back and reference from, if you saw somebody doing a market-specific interview, we're coming to San Jose, the Shark Tank, and I'm working with so-and-so, and I'm going to kick his ass. See, they would do that 20 different times and just add a different town in, So it was easy to get smooth at that and a little bit more polished. But they don't do that anymore. And I remember being at TV and being there till 2 in the morning because we did it in them sound boxes and just cut those interviews one after another for those market specifics. And it's just not done anymore.
We're going to have to take a commercial break. We got a lot of different questions to ask you, so I really don't want to start at anything. So we're going to be back with Sean Waltman right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Cool.
So welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Our special guest this week, Sean Waltman, 6-Pac of NWA TNA, formerly with World Wrestling Entertainment. And I think there's a lot of questions to ask you. You've had a long career, about 15 years, starting at a very young age, and you just turned 30, right?
Yeah, I turned 30 in July. Still a little bit older, but, I'm lucky. Hell, at one point, I didn't even know if I was going to make it till 30, so I guess I got a lot to be thankful for.
What, you've gone through a lot of battles in your career from, when you first broke in. You were the epitome of the thing of, you're too small to be a pro wrestler in that era because you came in through that era. And then you were one of the people who opened up the size barrier. You did a lot of, spectacular flying moves early that nobody was doing.
Yeah, I would say I was lucky enough to get a hold of some Japanese tapes and see what they were doing over there. And, a lot of people go, well, you guys, you invented this or that. I just was the first one to steal it.
Yeah.
At least in my era. So, I did stuff nobody had seen at the time. So.
Now, physically, what kind of a price has that paid? Everyone knows you've had bad neck, you've had the drug problems and everything like that. What, looking back, how much can a human body take? And we've got a whole lot of young guys who are doing a lot more than you were ever doing, really, as far as the crazy flying.
No.
Yeah, where do you see these guys having been through, years and years of this and being both experienced and still being young enough to where you're not an old guy by any means?
Well, that's a good question, and it's not as simple of an answer to that as somebody might think. A lot of the stuff I did, and I'll still pull something out once in a while, but it's not like people are expecting it from me every night. A lot of the stuff I did was really dangerous, maybe, but not as pretty as some of the stuff the guys are doing now. And some of the stuff the guys do now, I could never even dream of doing, regardless of how physical health is. But the consequences of missing a move or that are the same. And I'll just tell you for anybody that doesn't know what my body is like, I've got a fused vertebrae. My C5, C6 is fused. There's a metal plate in my neck. My fifth vertebrae is fractured, and it will be fractured like for the rest of my life. My disc below that now is deteriorated. I've got arthritis between shoulder blades. I got lower back problems, and a lot of that is just the regular wear and tear of the normal bumps, but
Sean, we got to take a break right now. We got to take our hourly break.
I'm long-winded. I'm sorry.
No problem. We'll be back with Sean Waltman. We got a lot to talk to him about. You can also join us at 1-800-878-PLAY. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome to the second hour here of Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Special guest for the second hour, Sean Waltman, 6-Pac, of NWA TNA and formerly World Wrestling Entertainment, long-time veteran there. I think a lot of people are probably curious the last couple of months, certainly the last month of your stay in WWE. It was one of those things. The breakup was pretty much an inevitability when you look back on it, wasn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. And I'll try, knowing that you guys have only an hour left of the show, I'll try to keep my answers shorter. But just to finish up that last question you asked me, I've tried. You try to say things to guys about taking it easy, but Dave, the fact of the matter is people have to find out for themselves, and they learn, because people said the same thing to me. So, I seen Low-Key with his ankle messed up, and I had a little word with him, but I know he's still going to go out there and try to bust his ass and make the name for himself, but, so that's the answer to that. So, but about the inevitable breakup, with the WWE, I could tell it was coming. I could honestly say I knew about a year prior that I wasn't going to be around there too much longer.
Do you think Kevin Nash and Scott Hall coming in kept you there longer, and then kind of let's face it, Kevin Nash got hurt, and that was your last night?
Yes. Actually, the signing of Kevin and Scott and Hulk and the whole angle is the only reason I came back in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly believe I wasn't coming back.
Did they give you any idea about what they were going to do with that NWO angle, or because it turned out a total disaster?
I honestly, you can't give somebody an idea of what you're going to do when you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And I cannot recall one time where any kind of a real game plan was laid out to me, as far as that goes. And I think that was quite obvious when you look at how the whole thing was executed in hindsight. Just for instance, let's just use my return as an example.
Sean, why don't you hold up, because we have to take one commercial break right here, and then we got a long segment right after this.
Right.
So let's head to the break right now, and we're going to come back and we'll talk about the game plan that didn't exist in WWE for the NWO. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're here for 2 hours from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, 7 to 9 Pacific Time, every Sunday night with Wrestling Observer Live. Guest tonight, Sean Waltman. Sean, we were talking about, your exit from the WWE and kind of the battle plan that didn't exist when the NWO came in.
Right. Like I was saying about how I was reintroduced into the mix was you know, 2 days after WrestleMania, I came down and pasted Hulk with a chair and left him laying bloody and spray painted on the back of his on his back, NWO. And the guy never even got to kick my ass on TV, let alone a pay-per-view. I didn't expect there to be a pay-per-view. Talk about no follow-up. I mean, I don't know. To me, it couldn't have been you can't possibly screw something up that bad on accident.
Well, I don't think that they did it. Do you think they did it on purpose?
Well, I'm not going to say that, but I mean, I just don't think there was any. You know, you have to handle your commodities with care, and I just don't think that it was handled. I mean, mind you, you're going to try to recreate something from the past anyhow, which usually doesn't work. But I mean, they did have this NWO thing, and there was some mileage they could have gotten out of it, and they didn't, and that's the truth.
Now, there was one about you and Brian Gewirtz not getting along. You want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. I'll talk about it. Anything in particular about? I mean, the guy writes some good verbiage for a couple of the wrestlers, and somehow because he has like a lot of free time, whether or not, I don't know, because he doesn't have a relationship or any other things going on in his life, but he's able to work the amount of hours that Vince expects from people that work for him, and so he got you know, to be one of the top writers, and he's not a wrestling guy, and personally it's a little hard, and it wasn't just me. I mean, pretty much most of the locker room felt the same way. It's just most people weren't quite as outspoken as I was. You know, I mean, it's hard to take orders or whatever you want to put it from somebody that's, you know, that can't really relate. And, you know, I don't know. We didn't see eye to eye at all.
Is there any, like, do you have a confrontation with him, or was it just one of those things where, you know, you just sort of understood that, you know, I mean, going through, you were there during the hottest period in company history. Before you were on the air, someone asked about you know, when you went there after Eric Bischoff fired you in that whole, you know, escapade over there.
Right.
In a sense, okay, and when Eric Bischoff let you go, basically as, like, I guess, punishment for Nash and Hall, was that that was probably the best career break you may have ever had, just because of the timing and everything.
Yes, that was I mean, I didn't want to go back. That was another case where I didn't want to go back somewhere. And the only thing that I was, like, bummed out about was that, like, I was fired, you know? I didn't enjoy the fact that I was fired. It just felt bad.
That was the FedEx package.
The FedEx thing, yes. I felt like that was a really cheesy way of doing it. And, I mean, looking back on it now, you know what? I don't sweat it. I don't hold any grudges or anything, but I mean, it did sure set the ball rolling, you know, for a lot of things to happen that might not have happened otherwise.
I mean, it's weird because when you look back historically at, you know, you going over there and then the creation of DX and everything, which was, you know, a key component in the turnaround of the WWF, and you were there, so you're there through the hottest period, and then you're there as it's going down. And I mean, what in your mind, what changed?
What changed? A lot. Well, for one thing, the success and how it, you know, how the company turned around and skyrocketed. It wasn't a gradual thing. You know, like some businesses, they grow gradually. Well, you know, after the '80s wrestling boom, you know, and I was there, for the really bad era.
That's right. Yeah, you were there in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've run the whole spectrum of that deal, and what changed, I think, is kind of almost probably what changed the first time things went down, minus the whole scandal and all that stuff from back then. But you know, Vince got side with the whole XFL thing. I think that had something to do with it. Just like back in the WBF ICO Pro days.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of parallels that I find very similar to the two eras or to the two time periods here. I just think that we lost, like we didn't keep our eye on the ball, and just things turned into something that, okay, people, I just don't think the majority of people really wanted to see. And they watch wrestling for the good parts of it, and they put up with the bad stuff.
That's what it seems like a lot of people. That's kind of the sentiment that you hear a lot of.
It's like, okay, I'll watch, but I don't like this part. I think that sucks. They're doing that. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
What are they doing on TV? Why are they doing this? It's like, well, I don't know. I just don't think that they, as in the people that are writing that, do not really grasp exactly what it is that the average person wants to see.
So do you think that, like in the last year or so, Vince maybe has lost some of his touch?
I'm sorry?
Do you think Vince has lost some of...
Year or so, that Vince maybe have lost some of his touch?
Some of his touch,
as far as, like, very basic wrestling booking, it's almost like he's kind of, I don't know if forgotten it is the right word, but things are just different now.
I think that there's something there to be, like, I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, but I don't have a better way of putting it either. I just think that, what got you to the dance, you didn't, I just don't think he remembered what got him to where he was as far as the product, and it wasn't soap opera storylines. It wasn't stuff that was so far out of the realm of reality that nobody would ever believe it could be real life. When things were going hot, it was because a lot of that stuff just seemed real. It seems real that the guy's sick of, everybody wanted to see the boss get his ass kicked, and it was pretty real actually, us like going and invading WCW.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that part there was like really like different, and I don't think anything like that will probably ever happen again.
What do you think as far as when the WCW guys came in and the reaction in the locker room to them? Because I don't think that they were utilized in the best manner, and it just, do you sense like at the beginning that it was different? They came from a different system, and they didn't know the system, and a lot of them kind of got off on a bad foot.
Okay. The thing is about that is a lot of the guys really were totally unprepared to be there, and couldn't step up to the plate and produce. But there were some guys that could. There were more than a couple that were totally worth having there, and I just think that as far as a group, I'll say we the guys that were currently in the locker room just kind of looked at them as not, well, they're from there, and that place went down the toilet, so we're the ones that know the right way to do things, and they don't. It's kind of that mentality. There was a couple of times when somebody did something that wasn't really that even big of a deal, and there was a big deal made out of it just because well, they're from there, and that place went down the toilet, so we're the ones that know the right way to do things, and they don't. It's kind of that mentality. There was a couple of times when somebody did something that wasn't really that even big of a deal, and there was a big deal made out of it just because they were new and they were like a WCW person. Not to get into specific spot. Well, if they're coming here, what about my spot? We've been working our ass off here for how many years, and now these people come in and, take our spots on TV.
You think Vince might have had a hand in trying to stir up some heat between the two sides?
I really don't think so.
Okay, because I remember him doing stuff like giving WCW T-shirts to the guys, even though, it's like they're all the same locker room now, so why would you separate them like that?
I really don't think that was like something like that was thought about. But I know there was definitely a difference between the two groups, and it took quite a little while there for the integration to happen, to where everybody was accepted, and the guys that were going to go and that were talented got kind of got accepted, and everybody just became one again, as far as a locker room.
Sean, we got to head to another break right now. We're going to come back with more with Sean Waltman right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly and Sean Waltman, who is going to be appearing Wednesday night on the NWA TNA pay-per-view, defending the X Division Championship against AJ. This will be the first time those two have ever wrestled. I'm correct on that, right?
Yes.
And
I want to say how proud I am of my X Division title victory. It was a long and hard fought match, and
you weren't even in.
Oh, is it? That's terrible, right? I felt guilty, but at least I get a chance to mix it up with AJ next week because of it. So,
well,
hopefully I can make it up to the people that way.
This is probably the most important singles match you've had in a long time.
At least for. Personally, for me, I don't know how other people feel about it, but it's a chance for me to prove to, myself and maybe some of the people out there that don't really think I have it in me anymore, that I can still pull one out of my ass every so often.
Now, going through, you've been through the ups and the downs of the drug situation, and where do you think, when it comes to wrestling, where the problem is, or where you kind of lose the thing, and also how do you fight your way out of it?
As far as
just the
whole business,
the whole business, the start of drug problems and fighting your way out of them and not falling back into them and the whole bit.
Well, that's the thing is. The lifestyle of a wrestler is just totally inconducive to somebody that has issues like that. And I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out. I think it's all about just making your mind up, and well, first of all, you have to realize that, and you have to realize that you have a problem, and a lot of people don't. And I think just the company, WWF, did a lot to try to help that situation. As far as they tried to cut the schedule back, they got newer rings that were didn't hurt the body as much. But guys are going to go through that, and it's a sad thing, and people go into that basically with their hands tied behind their back and, with their head out there like as a punching bag when they're going up against drug problems like that. Look at all the guys that have died.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
What in your opinion, you were there for the whole thing, the way it went down, the height and the fall of Steve Austin.
Yes.
Looking at it as someone who, worked with him and kind of, he was the guy who was carrying the load a lot during that big period. And then, I don't know if exactly where do you see, what happened to him? He walked out once, came back, walked out a second time.
I had a couple of pretty in-depth conversations with Steve right around that time. And I could sense his frustration. I had similar.
Was it like with writing?
Definitely, it was just the direction of the show, of the product in general, but more specifically, obviously, what they were doing with him. Because if there's something with you that's good, I mean, it does actually, even if the rest of the stuff isn't any good, you tend to be a little more happy. But he was just very, very, very unhappy and felt like I think that his complaints were, were stated and they fell upon deaf ears. He was very, very frustrated, and I don't condone how he handled himself, nor am I going to judge him either. How I would have handled it, I don't know, because I've never been in that pressure cooker of a situation. I've never had the weight on my shoulders like that, so I have no idea.
What do you think? I mean, as far as here, you're right. Here was a guy who was being counted on to carry the company, and I mean, there he was, through all the sellouts and the biggest period in company history, and then he's probably, no doubt, working every bit as hard, and the crowds were smaller, the TV ratings were smaller, and when you're in the middle of the card, people don't really blame you. And when you're on top, everyone's like, oh, Austin's lost it. And, obviously maybe even working harder and probably sleeping less because of thinking about it so much. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. And if you know Steve, you know how much he loves wrestling. I mean, he's a wrestler. You can call it sports entertainment. You can call it whatever the hell you want. But, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that it's professional wrestling and we're wrestlers. And when that's your life, and I know this because it's been my life, and I love wrestling. It's my first love. When things aren't going well for you creatively, it makes you absolutely miserable. I mean, that alone was one of the things that drove me, when I was younger, drove me not to, besides the physical pain, it was the mental stuff, about being unhappy at work that drove me to get so messed up stuff in the first place, drug-wise.
NWA TNA, you've been there for a couple of weeks now. What's your thoughts about the future, where it is right now, some of the guys? The comment, we saw the comment and then the apology to Loki. What was that all about?
That was the prior week. For those who didn't see it, I was given verbiage to go out there and say something about Loki, which I didn't feel like I should even be bringing his name up in the first place. And it was basically belittling him before his world heavyweight title match. And I didn't see a point, and against my better judgment, I went along with it anyhow, because I showed up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't feel it was fair to say this isn't right, this sucks, whatever. But I did give some, they knew I didn't like this, but I did it anyhow, and I felt awful afterwards. And so, just to fit in with what they had planned the other night, I asked Jarrett, if I could please do this little pre-tape and kind of clear that up and make the AJ Styles thing make a little bit of sense at the end of the night, and try to kill two birds with one stone there. And so for Loki to save a little face, because I mean, if I talk trash about him, he's got to come and do something.
When you saw that, I mean, if it wasn't to build up a match, what was sometimes I guess it's one of my big frustrations in wrestling is like, to me, you should never hint at something unless you're planning on paying it off, because what's the point?
Well, I asked if they had plans for me to have any business with him down the road, and I kind of got a little, maybe, there was no definitive, but I kind of got the impression that maybe we were going to do something at some point. But regardless, you don't tear down somebody going into a world heavyweight title match.
Now, did you make the same comments they had
scripted? It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, Brian?
Did you make the same comments that they had scripted, or did you kind of tone it down a little bit?
I toned it down, actually.
Okay.
Originally, I was supposed to say, like, they're sending a boy to do a man's job, along with, some other things some of which I did say. And, I left quite a bit of it out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just my how I felt. It didn't make any sense to me, but I tried to make up for it. That's all that was this last week.
Company wise, so what are your feelings right now on everything there?
But this thing means a lot to me, Dave. I think for the sake of the industry and the guys in the industry, I think it's imperative that this thing survive. And I'm going to do whatever I have to, as far as offering, my services, my brain and my body, to try to make it succeed. And a lot of things they're doing are really good, and some things I don't care for. I'm not a big fan of any of the racial stuff.
We got to head to a break right now. We can talk a little bit more about that. We're going to start taking some phone calls for Sean Waltman as well. We actually have one line open at 1-800-878-PLAY, and we'll start getting your phone calls right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. I want to remind everyone, 2 weeks from tonight, our guest on this show is going to be Roddy Piper. You guys asked for it, so that's the deal.
Well, that would be interesting.
Oh, yeah, because his book's coming out, so it's going to be...
Wow.
It'll be really interesting. When we went to the break, you were talking about, and I know Ron Killings was also unhappy about the kind of like the strong racial direction of your program.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like a major thing where he's like really, really distraught over it. It's just like he just kind of maybe felt like it's not, it's not necessary, and which is the truth. It's the truth. It's not necessary. I don't really think it's like this huge deal that should be like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this or that. I personally don't care for it. That's all.
Let's go to some phone calls. We're going to start with Jesse in Green Bay. Jesse, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, Brian, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
Sean, I remember, I think at the beginning of your career, I saw you in the late 80s on ESPN with the old GWF.
Yeah, so about 1991, I think that was.
Wrestling Jerry Lynn. Have you kept in touch with Jerry Lynn over the years, and is there any way you two might be working together again?
I would have to imagine, like, in the foreseeable future, like that, it's inevitable that Jerry and I work again. It's been over 10 years, and even back 10 years ago, I just thought he was just so good in that ring, and I think he's proven it,
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Over and over again.
I remember back then, to me, it was ground to see two guys flying around the way you guys did. You guys told the most amazing stories with your matches.
Thank you. I mean, we try to do everything in context. We both come a long way as far as psychology and, and that, obviously, over the years. But I can't wait to see what's going to happen when we finally get to work again.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Well, thanks for your time. And
thank you.
I'm a great fan. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
what guys have you learned the most from in the ring?
Myself?
Yeah.
Honest to God, the person that I learned the most from in the ring was Scott Hall. And the reason I say that is because this guy, in his prime, I mean, he looked great. Besides his look, as a babyface, he was tremendous babyface, how he sold, when to do things at the proper time. Anything that I learned as far as how to work that quote-unquote main event, WWF style, whatever you want to label it, was from Scott. And everybody that worked with him got better afterwards. Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Triple H, Jeff Jarrett, they'll all tell you the same thing. Working with Scott Hall just helped elevate them a notch as far as, psychology and knowing what to do in there.
Let's type it in Savannah. Jonathan, what's going on?
Hey, not much. What's going on, guys? Actually, someone sent my question earlier about, I want to ask Sean about Jerry Lynn, but I have another, route I can go. What do you think the problem was with you two not getting to work together when both of you were in WWF, WWE? Do you think was it politics?
I mean, that's like kind of I don't know, like, if that's the proper way of putting it, but I just, they didn't see Jerry's, strong points as being, you know, honest to God, I'm not quite sure why Jerry, got the deal he did there.
I haven't been able to figure it out, and I've tried.
I mean, if you cannot come up with some storyline for one of the top stars for a good actor, don't you usually find somebody else to write the story? You don't just get rid of the actor, do you?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand that. I mean, yeah, he might not have been the most colorful guy or this, but you know what? Not everybody can be the same. Not everybody can be like, you know, Mr. Charisma or however. You know, I don't know. It was very frustrating to see that happen to him.
Okay, and my other question I just wanted to ask was, what do you think of Bischoff now working for Vince?
I think it's good. I mean, honestly, I thought that he should have came in a long time ago. I didn't have a problem with it. Matter of fact, I told them a long time ago I didn't have a problem with him coming in. It made sense, and that only, I mean, I figured that some of the other guys probably would not care for it, or, you know, maybe Vince would bring him in just to, you know, stick it to him or whatever. I don't know, but I think it's fine.
Okay, that was it.
Cool.
Thanks. You know, when it comes to, you know, you started going to Japan pretty early in your career with like the Lucha Libre Federation.
Yep.
And with Jerry Lynn as a tag team. And then...
Yeah, we were the first guys, Americans, to work for that group, which that group kind of transformed into Michinoku.
Yeah. And a lot of those guys, actually, they were very green at the time, and now... You know, a lot of them ended up becoming like real big stars.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool being part of that, and I learned a lot there. I never wrestled in Mexico, Dave, but you know, I learned to work the style from some of the great luchadors. You know, El Hijo de Santo, Dos Caras, you know, Silver King. You know, I mean, those type of guys, great guys.
What are your thoughts? I know that it's been talked about you New Japan and also on the Japan scene, because I know you know the Japan scene probably better than most American wrestlers.
I used to know it up and down. I mean, because that was my business. That was where I made my living. So I still try to keep a good handle on what's going on over there.
What do you think has happened? In the last. I mean, I don't know how close you followed the last couple of years, but it's changed a lot.
Yes, it has. It's really changed. I mean, the landscape is almost unrecognizable if you hadn't seen anything in like the past 5 years, and all of a sudden there you are in Japan again. It's quite shocking, actually.
What's that? Because I know you've watched some tapes of it lately.
Well, the overall style, just like of the top promotions, has gotten. It has changed a lot. I know the influence of the mixed martial arts has a lot to do with it. Just the matches themselves are so different, and some of the companies like that used to do really good stuff. Their stuff isn't. It's shocking how not good it is now to be nice about it.
Yeah. Let's go Jerry in California. Jerry, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing really good.
I have a question for Sean. Back when the Monday Night Wars were really heating up, I remember an interview on Raw Magazine with Vince McMahon saying that if you regretted letting anybody go or losing anybody to WCW, it was you, Sean. And I was wondering if there was any storylines that maybe didn't pan out or got canceled, maybe could have taken you to the next level.
I'm not sure if I understood the last part of your question, actually.
Well, if maybe ideas that they'd had for you that just got, something
that could have taken you to the next level.
I really, if there were any, I don't know of them. I know, I had aspirations of reaching that next level. But at the same time, I'm pretty grateful for the level I did reach, because, a lot of guys will never get as far as I did. So I'm grateful for what I got there. And about as far as Vince saying that about me, I appreciate that, and it was cool. And Eric said the same thing after he fired me. I mean, he said that, you know, he wished he had never done that. It was a big mistake. But
that was at the time. I mean, the thing on that one is that it was just, you know, that may have been one of, I don't want to say the stupidest firings ever, because probably the Austin one in hindsight
probably is up there.
Yeah, but for the reason. I mean, at least with Austin, whether, you know, I mean, he had this reason that Austin was injured or whatever, whether it was a good reason or a bad reason. With you, I mean, there really was, I mean, you were fired for a reason of, you know, sending a message to your friends, which is that's just garbage, really.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too, Dave, is a lot of people assume that I got a lot of special treatment because of the friends that I had, or still have. But a lot of people don't realize that actually I took a hell of a lot of heat for that, because there was a lot of things that they couldn't do to Kevin or Scott.
Hello?
Yeah,
Still there?
I heard a ring, but
or something like that.
you know, like my life was kind of miserable there at the end of that WCW run, and a lot of it had to do with just, you know, I was getting hammered because I was friends with them, and they were you know, being difficult or whatever, and they were kind of untouchable, you know. So
when was the next time you talked to Eric after he let you go?
I've never talked to him since.
Really?
No, he actually told Kevin to have me call him, and it was like, well, you're the one that fired me by FedEx for no reason.
You just sent him a letter via FedEx. Your phone number.
The whole thing just amazed me, actually. I just and like I said, I never talked to him again. And he was like, up until the day I walked out on Raw, I think he thought for sure that I was going to call back, and you know, he was going to solve everything by maybe giving me a little raise or something. I don't know.
Let's go to Greg in Kansas City. Greg, what's going on?
Hey, yeah, I was just going to call and ask about, you were talking earlier about the WWE acquiring new talent, and there was just a thing coming out a couple of days ago about Spanky and Guido being signed. Do you think that's the direction they should be going? I think they're both incredible talents, but when you think of the Brock Lesnar thing, pretty much after that, who does Brock have left to?
You know, we all see the problems that of not long-term booking, because, you know, there's really, you know, Kane really isn't a good program for Hunter, and for Brock Lesnar after Undertaker, I mean, the next guy is really Edge, who is a great talent, but it's also not someone who they've gotten ready for that spot.
Exactly.
And, you know, and you know, unless, you know, they can always bring in Hulk Hogan or Bill Goldberg or somebody like that, but yeah, they have everyone slotted in these positions, and they don't have anyone in, like, say, position B who's on a hot streak ready to challenge for position A, and, you know, it's really going to start to tell when Undertaker takes time off, you know, with his elbow surgery. You know, they got crew of guys that are awesome workers that are, you know, have not been prepared for the top spot, unfortunately.
The thing is, Dave, is they don't have the spot. Like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Scott Hall. The Razor Ramon spot was a guy came up and, like, he would get groomed, and like they would go and have a match with Scott Hall, and Scott would get him ready for, like, whoever was the champ, you know. And they don't have anybody filling that type of spot right now that's like there with the specific job of elevating another guy.
We've got to head to our final break. We're going to be Sean Waltman right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We've just got a couple minutes to go with Sean Waltman, who's been our guest for a little over an hour. Sean, you know, what's your goals at this point in wrestling? How often do you want to wrestle? And what do you see for yourself for the next, say, 6 months to a year?
Boy, you know what? As many questions as I've been asked lately, nobody has asked me that. And that's a good question. My goal right now is to I mean, everybody can say I just want to have fun. I just want to, do my thing. I want to, go to Japan, try to make this NWA thing work, or try to be a part of making it work. And I mean, because I do love it. I love going down there, and I just want to be a professional wrestler as long as I can. I don't, I'd like to do some Hollywood stuff. I'm out here right now.
Is that why you moved?
And also to be closer to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other reasons too, but I basically, what I am is a professional wrestler, and if I can do other things, that's cool too. But I'll die a professional wrestler.
That actually didn't like the way that sounded.
Well, sorry.
I know what you meant though, but
I want to be a wrestler or involved in wrestling for the rest of my life.
Do you have aspirations as far as like booking at some point?
I don't know if that's necessarily my strong suit. Is actually the complete creative part of it. But if you give me a little something to work with, then I can tweak it. I can mold things once somebody gives me an idea. And somewhere in that capacity.
Sean, I want to thank you very much for doing the show on such short notice.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't. Not enough time for me because I'm such a long-winded person. I wish I could have answered your questions a little better.
No, it was good. It was good. Brian, real quick, Pride. What's the scoop?
It's over, and it was a pretty good show after you get past the first 3 matches. So if you didn't see the show, especially the Time Gracie match, if you want to see a real submission.
Oh, and why you must tap, because that guy should have tapped.
Yes.
Anyway, we are totally out of time. We're going to be back here in 2 weeks with Roddy Piper, so don't forget about that. And you're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.